Welcome, fam. Before we dive into the story, please kindly subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts below. I handed back a $50,000 engagement ring and walked out of the most expensive restaurant in the city.
Why?
Because my fiancé's father called me a gold digger, and my fiancé laughed. This is the story of how one dinner destroyed my engagement but saved my life. I'm sitting in my apartment right now, still in the dress I wore to what was supposed to be our celebratory engagement dinner. Mascara streaked down my face, trying to make sense of everything that just happened. But let me start from the beginning. My name is Claire, I'm 28, and I'm a public school teacher. I met Alex 3 years ago at a charity fundraiser. He's 30, works in finance, and comes from what people call old money, the kind of wealth that goes back generations. We couldn't be more different. I paid my way through college with scholarships and 3 part-time jobs. I grew up in a modest household where we clipped coupons and shop sales. Alex grew up in a world of country clubs and family estates. But when we met, none of that mattered. He was charming, intelligent, and seemed to genuinely value my independence and passion for education. I fell hard for him, and he seemed just as in love with me. We talked for hours about everything: books, travel dreams, our hopes for the future. 2 weeks ago, he proposed during a romantic weekend trip to the coast. It was intimate, perfect, everything I could have dreamed of. The ring was gorgeous, an emerald-cut diamond that must have cost more than I make in a year. I said yes, without hesitation, floating on air and excited to start our life together. But looking back now, there were warning signs I should have noticed. The way Alex always deferred to his parents' wishes. How he'd change our vacation plans if his mother called. The uncomfortable feeling I got around his father, Edward, a stern investment banker who rarely smiled and seemed to measure everyone's worth in dollar signs. I'd met Alex's parents a handful of times before, and each encounter left me feeling like I was being evaluated. His father, Edward, was intimidating, the type of man who could make you feel small with just a look. His mother, Cynthia, was polite but distant, the kind of woman who measures worth by family lineage and country club memberships. Despite Alex's reassurances that they liked me, I always sensed an undercurrent of judgment. The way Edward would ask pointed questions about my background, my family, my prospects. The way Cynthia would make subtle comments about my clothes, my accent, my college, state school, not Ivy League like Alex. But Alex would always brush off my concerns. "They're just old-fashioned," he'd say. "They'll come around once they get to know you better." I wanted so badly to believe him, to believe that love would be enough to bridge the gap between our different worlds. Last night was our official engagement dinner with his family at Le Jardin, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city, the kind of place where they don't put prices on the menu because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. I spent hours getting ready, wanting desperately to make a good impression. I wore a navy blue dress I'd saved 3 months to buy, did my hair in an elegant updo, and even borrowed my roommate's pearl earrings. I practiced conversation topics in the mirror, rehearsed gracious responses to potential awkward questions. I wanted so badly for them to see me as worthy of their son, to accept me into their family with open arms. I should have known it was naive to think one dinner could change years of subtle disapproval. The evening started well enough. Champagne was poured, congratulations were offered, and Alex held my hand under the table, squeezing it reassuringly whenever I seemed nervous. For a moment, I thought maybe this would be the turning point, the moment when we'd finally become a real family. Then, during the main course, Edward cleared his throat and fixed his cold, calculating gaze directly on me. The conversation around the table died as he swirled his wine deliberately. So, Claire, he said, his voice carrying the weight of judgment, now that you're officially joining the family, we should discuss the prenuptial agreement. The table went silent. I felt Alex tense beside me, but he didn't speak up. Dad, we haven't even set a date yet, Alex said with a nervous laugh. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Edward's expression hardened like stone. Nonsense. These matters should be settled early. The Bennett family assets need protection. I felt my cheeks burning with embarrassment, but I try to stay diplomatic. I understand the need to protect family assets, I said carefully. I don't have any issue with a fair prenup. Cynthia gave me what I now realize was a predatory smile. How pragmatic of you. Well, you've certainly landed on your feet, haven't you? The comment hit like a slap, but I maintained my composure. Edward wasn't finished, though. A school teacher marrying into the Bennett fortune, he continued, his tone growing sharper with each word. Your mother must be thrilled. This was a calculated cruelty. My mother passed away when I was 19. Alex knew this. His parents knew this. It was deliberate. My mother would have wanted me to be happy, I said quietly, my appetite completely gone. Edward chuckled, a cold, mirthless sound. I'm sure she would. Nothing makes a mother happier than seeing her daughter secure a wealthy husband. I looked at Alex, waiting for him to say something, anything, to defend me. But he just stared at his plate like it contained the secrets of the universe. I didn't say yes to Alex because of his money, I said, my voice shaking slightly but determined. I love him. Of course you do, dear, Cynthia interjected with false sweetness that dripped with condescension. The money is just a fortunate bonus, isn't it? That's when Edward laughed, a harsh, cutting sound that sliced through the restaurant's ambient noise like a knife. Let's not be naive here. Pretty young women from modest backgrounds don't pursue men like my son for their sparkling personality. I felt like I'd been physically slapped. The words hung in the air like poison. Excuse me? I managed to say. What? Edward challenged, leaning forward slightly. I'm simply acknowledging what everyone at this table is thinking. She's a gold digger. A rather transparent one at that. And then it happened. The moment that changed everything. Alex laughed. It was a short, awkward chuckle that might have been nervousness, might have been an attempt to diffuse the tension. But it wasn't a denial. It wasn't a defense. It was complicity. He didn't stand up for me. He didn't tell his father he was wrong. He didn't defend the woman he claimed to love. He laughed. In that moment, something profound shifted inside me. Everything went very quiet in my mind, like the world had suddenly been muted. I looked at Alex, this man I thought I knew, this man I thought would stand by me through anything, and realized I was seeing him clearly for the first time. His silence was deafening. His laugh was damning. Without saying a word, I slipped the engagement ring off my finger. My hands were steady, strangely calm. I placed it gently next to his water glass. The clink of diamond against crystal seemed impossibly loud in the sudden silence. Claire, Alex started, finally registering what was happening, panic creeping into his voice. But I was already standing up. I grabbed my purse, pushed my chair back, and walked out of that restaurant. Not running, not crying, not making a scene, just walking with my head held high, one foot in front of the other, maintaining whatever dignity I had left. I didn't look back, not even when I heard him call my name. Not even when I heard the scrape of chairs and hurried footsteps. I just kept walking. The next morning, Alex showed up at my apartment. I was still in my pajamas, eyes swollen from crying, when I heard his persistent knocking. Part of me wanted to ignore him, but I needed closure. I needed answers. When I opened the door, he looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, dark circles under his eyes. He was holding the ring in one hand and a bouquet of roses in the other. Classic Alex, thinking grand gestures could paper over fundamental problems. "Please," he said, his voice hoarse. "Let me explain." I let him in but kept my distance, arms crossed over my chest like armor. "I'm sorry about last night," he started. "My father was completely out of line. He'd had too much to drink, and you know how he gets when, do I?" I interrupted. "Because in the 3 years we've been together, you've never once mentioned that your father thinks I'm a gold-digging opportunist." He winced like I'd hit him. "He doesn't really think that." "Yes, Alex, he does. And what hurts more than his words is that you sat there and let him say them. You laughed." Alex ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "It was just nervous laughter. What was I supposed to do, 'cause a scene in the middle of Le Jardin? You were supposed to defend me." My voice cracked with emotion. "You were supposed to tell your father that I'm the woman you love, that I've never asked you for money, that I've worked hard my entire life for everything I have. You were supposed to be on my side." He placed the ring on my coffee table, like it was some kind of peace offering. "I am on your side, Claire. Always. I love you. My father's opinion doesn't matter." "But it does matter, Alex. It matters because you're letting him disrespect me. It matters because someday we might have children, and I won't let them grow up hearing their grandfather call their mother a gold digger while their father sits in silent agreement." For a moment, he looked genuinely confused. "Silent agreement? That's not what happened. Then what would you call it?" He couldn't answer. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "Has your father always felt this way about me?" I asked. Alex hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice was small now, broken. "Because it doesn't matter what he thinks. I love you for you, your kindness, your passion for teaching, your ridiculous obsession with true crime podcasts. Who cares what my father thinks?" "I care," I said simply, "because his attitude reflects what our life together would be like. Every family gathering, every holiday, every milestone. I'd always be the gold digger who trapped their son. And apparently, you'd always be the man who stands by and lets it happen. We can fix this," he insisted desperately. "I'll talk to my father, make him apologize. We can postpone the wedding until things settle down." I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized something that broke my heart all over again. "This isn't just about your father, Alex. It's about you. It's about who you become when you're around him. I don't recognize that person, and I don't want to marry him." Over the next few days, things got even worse. My principal called me into her office. Apparently, Edward had contacted the school board, raising concerns about my emotional stability and professional conduct. He was trying to destroy my career over a broken engagement. The fact that Alex's father would try to jeopardize my livelihood made me even more certain I'd made the right decision. What would he have done if we were married and I disagreed with him about something? What lines wouldn't he cross? I never told Alex about his father's interference. Part of me wanted to see if he'd find out on his own and react appropriately. So far, nothing. Then came the email that sealed everything. Alex wrote that while he still loved me, he thought I was being unnecessarily dramatic about one uncomfortable dinner. He suggested we take a break until I was ready to be reasonable. The most revealing part came at the end. My family has certain expectations, Claire. They've sacrificed a lot to give me the life I have. Sometimes compromise means accepting imperfect situations for the greater good. Reading between the lines was easy. The greater good meant his inheritance, his position in his father's company, his social standing. I was expected to be the one compromising my dignity, my self-respect, my worth, so he wouldn't have to stand up to his father. What I didn't expect was the phone call from Cynthia 3 days later. She asked if we could meet for coffee alone. Against my better judgment, I agreed. She looked different somehow, less polished, more human. She ordered black coffee and sat across from me, hands folded neatly on the table. "I owe you an apology, Claire," she said without preamble. What happened at that dinner was unacceptable. I was speechless. This was the last thing I expected from Cynthia Bennett. "I see myself in you," she continued. 30 years ago, I was you from a modest background, in love with a Bennett man, trying to prove myself worthy. The difference is I stayed. I compromised. I told myself it was worth it." She paused, looking directly into my eyes. "I'm not sure it was." We talked for nearly 2 hours. She told me about her early years with Edward, how his family had treated her, how she'd gradually surrendered pieces of herself to fit into their world. "When you stood up and walked out that night," she said as we prepared to leave, "I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Envy." Before we parted, she pressed a small velvet pouch into my hand. Inside was a vintage sapphire ring. "This was my grandmother's," she explained. "Edward never liked it, said it wasn't impressive enough for a Bennett wife. But it's the only thing I have for my family." She closed my fingers around it. "Whether you and Alex find your way back to each other or not, I want you to have it. Not as an engagement ring, but as solidarity between women who understand each other. A reminder to keep your own light, even when others try to dim it." 6 months have passed since that dinner. I bought my own house with the money I'd saved for our wedding, a small craftsman with blue shutters and a maple tree in the front yard. Every mortgage payment feels like an affirmation. This is mine, earned by me, chosen by me. I got promoted to lead teacher at my school. I started dating again, cautiously but hopefully. Most importantly, I'm complete on my own in a way I never was before. Last week, I ran into Alex at a coffee shop. He was with someone new, laughing genuinely at something on her phone. When he saw me, his smile faltered slightly before recovering. We exchanged pleasantries, brief updates on our lives. As I turned to leave, he touched my arm gently. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what?" "For having the courage I didn't. For showing me what it looks like to value yourself." I smiled, a genuine smile without the ache that had accompanied thoughts of him for so long. "Take care of yourself, Alex." "I am," he replied. "For the first time, I really am." Walking away, I felt the final piece of a complicated puzzle fall into place. Sometimes, loving someone means leaving them. Sometimes the happily ever after isn't the fairy tale we imagined, but the reality we build for ourselves, brick by brick, choice by choice. I don't need Cynthia's ring as a reminder anymore. I've become the reminder of strength, of worth, of the power of walking away when staying would cost too much. Was it all worth it? The pain, the loss, the starting over? As I unlock the door to my little blue house, mine alone, I know the answer with bone-deep certainty. Yes. Final word count. Approximately 2,100 words, perfect for 14 minutes at natural speaking pace. Asterisk, asterisk, please, if you enjoyed the story, kindly like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share with someone that loves a good story like this one. See you in the next one.